What's happening, everybody? I'm Todd Tanner. This is Wrestling News Now. Check it out. If you happen to like the content of the wrestling profiles and biographies that I'm talking about here, subscribe to Wrestling News Now with your boy Todd Tanner. Let's get down to it. He was the Superfly, Jimmy Snuka. One of the most infamous matches that he ever had was in a 15 feet high steel cage from the old Spectrum that took place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He came flying off the top rope against the one and only Don Morocco. So it's time to profile the Superfly. James Ryer Snuka was a Fijian-American professional wrestler. He is better known by the ring name Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Snuka wrestled for several promotions from the 1970s to 2010. So exactly, who was this high-flying machine seemed to death-defy any and every opponent that ever came in his way? Jimmy Ryer Snuka, born James Wiley Smith on the 18th of May 1943, and he passed away in 2017 on the 15th of January, was a Fijian-American professional wrestler. He is better known by the ring name Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Snuka wrestled for several promotions from the 1970s to 2010. He was best known for his time in the World Wrestling Federation, the WWF, now WWE, in the 1980s, and was credited with introducing the high-flying style of wrestling to the WWF. He was inducted into the WWF Hall of Fame in 1996, but was quietly removed from the Hall of Fame selection of WWE's website in 2015. After he was arrested for the murder of his girlfriend in 1983. Snuka was the inaugural ECW World Heavyweight Champion, a title he held twice. In Eastern Championship Wrestling, later Extreme Championship Wrestling, his children, Sim Snuka and Tamina Snuka, are both professional wrestlers. Snuka was indicted and arrested in September 2015 on third-degree murder and voluntary manslaughter charges in retaliation to the May 1983 death of his girlfriend, Nancy Argentino. In Allentown, Pennsylvania, Snuka pleaded not guilty, but was ultimately found unfit to stand trial in June 2016 due to being diagnosed with dementia. As his health declined, the charges were dismissed on January 3, 2017. Snuka died 12 days later at the age of 73. Rest in peace, Superfly, Jimmy Snuka. Snuka was born in the British colony of Fiji on May 18, 1943 to Louis Smith and Charles Thomas. Thomas was married to another woman, and Smith was engaged to Bernard Ryer. Before Snuka was born, his mother married Ryer. As a child, Snuka moved with his family to the Marshall Islands and then to Hawaii. Snuka was active in amateur bodybuilding in Hawaii in the 1960s. This is getting good. He also enjoyed some success as a professional bodybuilder, earning the titles of Mr. Hawaii, Mr. Hawaiikia, and Mr. North Shore. I probably messed that up, but I got to keep going. Snuka opted to go into the more lucrative career of professional wrestling due to the uncertainty of his making a living in bodybuilding. While working at Dean Ho's gym in Hawaii, Snuka met many of the wrestlers who worked in the South Pacific region and decided to try the business. Let me just say this about bodybuilding. Bodybuilding requires a lot of effort, but it does not pay a lot of money unless you are the top contenders and unless you have massive physiques and etc., etc. So Snuka followed many of the wrestlers who worked in the South Pacific region and decided to try the business. Snuka made his debut as Jimmy Kaloha, fighting Maxwell Bunny Butler in Hawaii in 1970. He later moved to the mainland and wrestled for Don Owens' NWA's Pacific Northwest Territory, where he held the belt as heavyweight champion 6 times. He first won the title by pinning Bull Romaz on November 16, 1973. It was in this territory that Ryer transformed himself into Jimmy Snuka. Snuka also held the NWA Pacific Northwest Tag Team Championship 6 times with partner Dutch Savage. Snuka also held a 2-year feud with another rookie Jesse the Body Ventura. Snuka also wrestled in several other National Wrestling Alliance, or the NWA, regions including Texas. In 1977, he won both the Texas heavyweight and tag team titles. Snuka then left for the Mid-Atlantic, where he formed a tag team with Paul Orndorff. In their first television match, they defeated the NWA World Tag Team Champions, Jack and Jerry Briscoe, in a non-title bout. Orndorff and Snuka defeated Baron Von Raschke and Greg Valentine to become the tag team holders in 1979. On September 1st, 1979, Snuka defeated Ricky Steamboat to hold the United States title. Snuka also formed a tag team with Ray Stevens. While with this promotion, his career eventually led him to Georgia, where he teamed with Terry Gordy to win the NWA National Tag Team Championship by defeating Ted DiBiase and Steve Olonsky. In January 1982, Snuka entered the World Wrestling Federation, or the WWF as it was then called, as a villainous character under the guidance of Captain Lou Albano. Snuka lost several title shots at WWF champion Bob Backlund, including a steel cage match at Madison Square Garden on June 28, 1982, in which Snuka leapt from the top of the cage and missed a prone Backlund, who managed to roll out of the way and escape the cage for the win. The contest was declared Match of the Year by Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Even though Snuka portrayed a violent villain, he won fans because of his athletic style. In a storyline in 1982, Buddy Rogers, he was the original Nature Boy, told Snuka that Albano was cheating him financially, and as a result, Snuka fired Albano. Snuka took on Rogers as his manager during the feud with Albano, Freddie Blassie, and Ray Stevens. The attack solidified Snuka's new role as a fan favorite. Seeking to settle the score, Snuka defeated Stevens in the majority of the series of matches between the two. He also faced several of other Albano's wrestlers and defeated Albano in a steel cage match in Madison Square Garden, the Mecca, as it was known then, of all wrestling matches. Snuka also feuded with Don Morocco in 1983, which began after Snuka entered the ring for a match against Don Kennedy. On the June 18th episode of Championship Wrestling, while Morocco, the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion, was being interviewed. Morocco, enraged at the perceived lack of respect, confronted Snuka at ringside, triggering a brawl. This feud led to a defining moment of Snuka's career on October 17, 1983, in a steel cage match at Madison Square Garden. Earlier, I said the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Oops, my bad. There you have it. The match ended in a loss for Snuka, but afterwards, he dragged Morocco back into the ring and connected with the most famous Superfly splash of his career off the top of the 15-foot or 4.6 millimeters high steel cage. Future wrestling stars, The Sandman, Mick Foley, Tommy Dreamer, and Bubba Ray Dudley were all in attendance at the event and cited the match as the reason they decided to actively pursue professional wrestling. Snuka was named the 1983 Wrestler of the Year by Victory Magazine, later renamed WWF Magazine, for his efforts. In June 1984, Snuka became embroiled in a feud with one of the WWF's top villains, Rowdy Roddy Piper. In the segment, A Piper's Pit, Piper hit Snuka on the left side of his head, very close to the temple, with a coconut. The attack led to a series of grudge matches between the two that were played out over venues across the U.S. throughout the summer of 1984. In late 1984, Snuka entered a rehabilitation facility. The WWF created a storyline in which Piper had broken Snuka's neck by hitting him over the head with a chair. Tonga Kid, who was billed as Snuka's nephew, continued the feud on Snuka's behalf. The remainder of Snuka's initial WWF stint had him frequently tangling with Piper one way or another, often via tag matches or wrestling Piper's closest ally Bob Orton Jr. Snuka defeated Orton at the War to settle the score on February 18, 1985. An injury during the match forced Orton to wear a cast on his left arm, which he continued to wear after the injury healed. The feud played a small part in the first WrestleMania in March 1985, when Snuka acted as a cornerman for Hulk Hogan and Mr. T when they defeated Piper and Paul Orndorff. With Orton in their corner, Snuka left the WWF in July 1985, though he still appeared in cartoon form when Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling premiered in September. There you have it. This story about Superfly, Jimmy Snuka, to be continued. For Wrestling News Now, I'm Todd Tanner.